Part 1, How Aries Act When They're Hurt. Introduction, Understanding Aries' Emotional Side. Aries, the bold and fiery leader of the zodiac, is known for their unstoppable energy and their ability to take on any challenge. They are adventurous, confident, and always ready to jump into action. But just like any other sign, Aries has a softer, more vulnerable side, one that's not always easy to see. Aries might be perceived as invincible, someone who can overcome anything without breaking a sweat, but when they are hurt emotionally, the situation changes. Their reaction to emotional pain is often surprising because they tend to hide their vulnerability behind their fiery nature. In this part, we will dive deep into the first few signs that show when an Aries is emotionally hurt. These signs are not always obvious, but once you know what to look for, you'll be able to recognize when your Aries friend, partner, or family member is struggling. Let's take a closer look at the first 21 signs that reveal how Aries reacts when they are hurt. 21. Sudden silence, the most alarming change. Aries, being a fire sign, are naturally outgoing and expressive. They love to engage with others and often bring an infectious energy to social situations. But when they're hurt, one of the first things you'll notice is a drastic shift in their behavior, sudden silence. Normally, an Aries will be the one who fills the room with conversation, humor, and passion. They are known for their leadership and confident nature, often taking charge of conversations and events. However, when something emotionally devastating occurs, an Aries can go completely quiet. And it's not the usual silence you might expect from someone who is just taking a break or being introverted. This silence is more profound, it's the type of silence that signals deep emotional pain. The sudden quietness is not because they're angry or upset, though they may be, but rather because they are retreating into themselves to process the hurt. Aries rarely show their vulnerability easily, so when they are quiet, it's their way of coping. They don't necessarily want to talk about their emotions, and they might even avoid conversations that force them to confront their feelings. The silence you hear is a protective mechanism, they need space to deal with the hurt on their own. As someone who has closely observed Aries friends during emotional distress, I can tell you that this sudden withdrawal often catches people off guard. It's not typical for an Aries to shut down, and that's why it's a key sign that something serious has affected them emotionally. 20. Emotional coldness, the shielding effect. Aries are known for their warm, energetic personalities. They are passionate, fiery, and enthusiastic, which makes them some of the most charismatic people to be around. However, when an Aries is hurt, one of the clearest signs is emotional coldness. This coldness is unlike the usual confidence and warmth they usually radiate. Instead of being open and expressive, they may start to appear emotionally distant, indifferent, or even aloof. This shift is not about being rude or angry, it's a defense mechanism. When Aries feels vulnerable, they will often put up emotional walls to protect themselves from further harm. Emotional coldness from an Aries can be a huge shock, especially if they are typically warm and engaging. But when they are emotionally wounded, they can retreat into themselves and push others away. They may not know how to process their feelings, or they may feel that they are too hurt to let anyone in. Personal insight, I've witnessed an Aries friend behave this way after a difficult situation, completely shutting down emotionally. The warmth that normally filled the room was replaced by an icy distance. It's important to understand that this is not a sign that they no longer care, it's simply their way of protecting themselves from further pain. 19. Avoidance, running from confrontation. Aries are naturally confrontational. They prefer to face challenges head-on and are never afraid to engage in direct confrontation. However, when they are emotionally hurt, something strange happens. They may avoid dealing with the situation altogether. This behavior is especially surprising because it's so out of character for Aries. Known for their boldness, they are usually the first ones to confront issues, whether it's with friends, family, or even in the workplace. But when they are hurt, they may choose to retreat, avoiding difficult conversations or situations that could force them to face the pain directly. Avoidance can take many forms. An Aries may avoid someone they've had a falling out with, skip social gatherings that remind them of the situation, or even pull away from people they usually trust. This avoidance doesn't come from a desire to escape confrontation, but rather from a deep feeling of vulnerability. When they are hurt, they may feel too overwhelmed to engage with the issue directly, and they may fear that confrontation will only make things worse. Personal insight: I remember one particular instance where an Aries friend, usually the life of the party, simply disappeared from our social circle for weeks after a personal issue. We all knew something was off, but no one had the courage to reach out. Looking back, it was clear that the avoidance was not a sign of anger, it was a sign of emotional overwhelm. They didn't know how to handle their hurt, so they distanced themselves. 18. Low self-esteem, the struggle with inner doubt. Aries are usually filled with self-confidence, pride, and a sense of personal power. They are natural leaders who walk into rooms with their heads held high, ready to take charge of any situation. However, when they are emotionally hurt, this self-assuredness can be deeply shaken. A hurt Aries will often experience a significant dip in their self-esteem. They might start to doubt themselves and question their worth, something that is completely out of character for them. Aries tend to be fiercely independent and self-reliant, so when their confidence falters, it's a sign that the emotional wound is deep. This drop in self-esteem might not be immediately noticeable, as Aries often try to hide their insecurities behind a strong front. But if you pay close attention, you'll notice signs like increased self-criticism, uncertainty about their abilities, or excessive self-reflection. Personal insight: I've witnessed this firsthand with Aries individuals I've known. After a significant emotional setback, they began to question their own value and abilities. This is a stark contrast to their usual outgoing, confident nature. It reminded me how deep emotional pain can shake even the most confident person. 17. Defensive behavior, building emotional walls. Aries is naturally assertive and outspoken, so when they feel emotionally wounded, they often react by becoming defensive. This is one of the most immediate and noticeable signs that something is wrong. When Aries feels hurt, they may put up emotional walls to protect themselves. These defenses can manifest in a variety of ways, such as snapping at people, becoming irritable or argumentative, or retreating into a more combative stance. This is not because they want to start a fight or cause trouble, it's simply a reaction to feeling vulnerable. Aries, known for their pride and sense of self, may have difficulty admitting that they're hurt. Their defensive behavior is a shield, an attempt to keep others from seeing how deeply they are affected. Personal insight: I've seen an Aries friend go on the offense when they were actually feeling hurt. They started picking fights with those closest to them, and at the time, we all assumed they were being difficult. But later, it became clear that they were using defense mechanisms to hide the pain they were truly feeling. This experience made me realize how important it is to understand their reactions, as they are often trying to protect themselves rather than attack others. In the next section, we will continue exploring more signs of how an Aries acts when they are hurt. focusing on how their emotional state influences their interactions with others and their coping mechanisms. Personal insight: having observed Aries in various emotional states, one thing I've learned is that they are complex beings. While they may seem invulnerable on the surface, their emotional world is rich and sensitive. If you understand these subtle signs, you can better support them during their most difficult times. Understanding their need for space, their emotional defenses, and their struggle with vulnerability can help you approach an Aries with the empathy they need. 16. Irritability: the tension builds. When an Aries is emotionally hurt, one of the most obvious signs is irritability. Aries are generally known for their optimism, energy, and positive outlook on life. They don't typically get ruffled by small inconveniences. However, when they are emotionally distressed, they can become easily agitated by even the smallest of things. This irritability can manifest in various ways. An Aries might snap at people, get frustrated over trivial matters, or exhibit a short temper when they usually wouldn't. The smallest issues that normally wouldn't faze them become major sources of frustration. This reaction is often the result of emotional tension building up inside them, and it can serve as an outlet for their stress and pain. Personal insight: I remember one time when an Aries friend seemed to get annoyed over things that weren't a big deal at all. At first, I thought they were being overly sensitive, but looking back, I realize it was their way of releasing the pent-up emotions they were struggling with. Irritability became the outward sign of their inner turmoil. Aries typically have a lot of control over their emotions, but when they are hurt, it's as if their patience evaporates, and their frustration is more visible. If you see an Aries reacting to minor annoyances with heightened anger or impatience, it's a sign that their emotional state is fragile, and they may be trying to process deeper pain. 15. Impatience: a desire for quick resolution. One of the core traits of Aries is their drive to move quickly and achieve goals without delay. They are always looking for the next challenge or the next step in their journey. However, when an Aries is emotionally hurt, their natural impatience becomes even more pronounced. The Aries who is emotionally distressed will struggle to deal with any delays, setbacks, or obstacles that come their way. Their usual high-energy nature, combined with their inability to sit still, makes them want to move past their pain as quickly as possible. Waiting for things to settle or for emotions to heal can feel like an eternity to them, and this impatience can manifest in other areas of their life as well. Personal insight: I have seen Aries friends become intensely frustrated when they are forced to wait for something, whether it's for healing or simply waiting for things to return to normal. This impatience often comes out in ways that feel exaggerated, but it's a natural reaction to their inner emotional struggle. Aries don't like feeling stuck, and when they are hurt, they want the emotional turmoil to end immediately. Their desire to move forward, coupled with a deep sense of urgency, can make it difficult for them to sit with their emotions and process them at a natural pace. This need to quickly resolve emotional pain can sometimes prevent them from taking the time to properly heal, which can lead to long-term difficulties. 14. Unexpected tears: the rare emotional release. Aries are typically seen as tough and strong individuals, rarely showing their emotions outwardly. So when an Aries unexpectedly breaks down in tears, it's a sign that they are truly struggling emotionally. These tears are not a sign of weakness, but rather an intense emotional release that they can no longer keep inside. It's unusual for Aries to cry, as they are known for their tough exterior and strong sense of control. But when their pain becomes too much to bear, they may experience a breakdown. These tears are often a response to feeling overwhelmed and helpless, and they come out in moments of frustration, vulnerability, or when their emotional strength falters. Personal insight: I've witnessed an Aries friend cry after a particularly difficult breakup. It shocked everyone around them because they were always the one who stood strong. But in that moment, their tears were an expression of deep emotional pain. It was a reminder that even the strongest individuals have moments of vulnerability. If you see an Aries crying, don't mistake it for weakness. It's actually a powerful sign of emotional release, and it can be a turning point for them as they begin to process their pain in a more authentic way. Letting them have space to cry is one of the best ways to support them during their emotional turmoil. 13. Social withdrawal, a need for solitude. Another clear sign that an Aries is emotionally hurt is their tendency to withdraw from social interactions. Aries is usually outgoing, energetic, and loves being around people. They thrive in social settings. But when they are hurt, they often retreat into solitude. This withdrawal is not a sign that they no longer value their social connections, but rather a reflection of their need for time alone to heal. Aries may choose to isolate themselves from friends, family, and even work commitments because they need the space to process their emotions privately. Personal insight: I've had Aries friends who, after experiencing emotional pain, stopped showing up to social gatherings and even avoided one-on-one conversations. At first, I thought they were just being antisocial, but I later realized that they were simply pulling away to give themselves the emotional room to heal. If you notice that an Aries is isolating themselves after a tough emotional experience, understand that they are not rejecting you, they're simply trying to heal on their own terms. It's important to respect their need for space, but also let them know you're there for them when they're ready to re-engage. 12. Explosive reactions, the fiery outburst. Aries are known for their fiery temper and intense emotions. When they are emotionally hurt, this can lead to explosive reactions that catch people off guard. Aries, who are normally confident and composed, may lash out with anger or frustration, especially when they feel that their emotional pain has reached a tipping point. These explosive outbursts may seem disproportionate to the situation, but they are actually the result of feeling emotionally overwhelmed. Aries are not used to feeling vulnerable or weak, so when their pain becomes too much to handle, they can react with intensity. Personal insight: I've seen an Aries friend explode with anger over something minor, only to later apologize when they realized it was a result of their emotional distress. Their reaction wasn't about the specific incident, it was a release of the emotional pressure they were holding in. Understanding that these outbursts are not personal can help you offer them the support they need during a tough time. When Aries lashes out in anger, it's often a sign that they are struggling to deal with their emotions. They are not trying to hurt anyone, but rather trying to manage the emotional pressure that has built up inside them. Patience and understanding are key when dealing with this type of reaction from an Aries. 11. Blaming others, avoiding self-reflection. One of the less pleasant signs that an Aries is emotionally hurt is their tendency to blame others for their pain. Aries, who are usually very self-assured and confident, may find it difficult to look inward when they are emotionally wounded. Instead, they may focus on pointing fingers and assigning blame to those around them. This blaming behavior can stem from their desire to protect their ego and avoid taking responsibility for their own role in the situation. Aries tend to be proud and don't like feeling vulnerable, so it's easier for them to externalize the cause of their hurt rather than face their own emotions. Personal insight: I've seen an Aries friend repeatedly blame others after a falling out, only to later realize that they were deflecting from their own role in the conflict. This behavior is not malicious, but it's a defense mechanism to avoid feeling vulnerable or self-critical. If you see an Aries constantly blaming others for their emotional pain, it's a sign that they are not ready to face the deeper issues within themselves. Giving them time and space to reflect on their role in the situation can help them heal in a more meaningful way. 10. Disinterest, losing passion for what they once loved. Aries are often characterized by their passionate energy and enthusiasm for life. Whether it's a hobby, work project, or social activity, they tend to give their full attention and energy to the things they care about. However, when they are emotionally hurt, this natural zest for life can suddenly disappear. One of the most noticeable signs that an Aries is emotionally distressed is their sudden loss of interest in activities or people that once excited them. This disinterest is a clear indicator that their emotional pain has drained them of the energy and motivation they once had. Aries, who are normally full of enthusiasm, may become disengaged and withdrawn from things they once loved. Personal insight: I've seen this happen with an Aries friend who stopped attending social events or pursuing activities they once found exciting. It was as if their entire energy had been sucked away, and they no longer felt motivated to engage with things that used to bring them joy. This disinterest was their way of coping with emotional pain, and it was a sign that they were struggling internally. If you notice that an Aries has suddenly lost interest in things they used to care about, it's important to understand that this is likely a symptom of deeper emotional distress. Rather than pushing them to re-engage, it's best to give them the space to process their feelings and heal on their own time. 9. Physical distancing, creating space for healing. When an Aries is hurt emotionally, they may begin to distance themselves physically from the people who have caused them pain. This physical distancing is a common way for Aries to protect themselves from further emotional harm. They may avoid physical contact, like hugs or even casual interactions, or they may retreat to a separate space to regain their emotional balance. This behavior can be difficult to understand, especially since Aries are usually very energetic and sociable. However, when they are hurt, they feel the need to create physical space between themselves and the source of their pain. This distancing is not about rejecting others but about protecting themselves while they work through their emotions. Personal insight: I've observed Aries friends physically pulling away after a difficult emotional experience. It wasn't that they didn't care about us, but rather they were trying to shield themselves from further emotional stress. It's essential to give them the space they need during these times, but also reassure them that you are there for them when they are ready to reconnect. 8. Resentment, holding on to grudges. Aries are known for their fiery tempers and quick reactions, but one thing they don't often show is their ability to hold on to resentment. When an Aries is hurt, they might not let go of their feelings easily, and this can lead to long-term resentment. Unlike other signs that may move on relatively quickly after a conflict, Aries tend to hold on to their hurt feelings much longer, even if they don't outwardly express them. Aries may try to convince themselves and others that they have moved past the hurt, but deep down, the resentment lingers. They might act like everything is fine, but their behavior or interactions with the person who caused them pain may reveal that they are still holding on to a grudge. Personal insight: I've witnessed Aries individuals who seem to forgive quickly, but then continue to act cold or distant toward the person who hurt them. It wasn't until I took a closer look at their actions that I realized they were still holding on to resentment, even though they were trying to hide it. It's a reminder that emotional wounds often take longer to heal than we might think, and Aries may not be as quick to forgive as they appear. If you notice that an Aries is acting distant or cold, even after seeming to forgive, it's likely that they are still struggling with unresolved feelings of resentment. This is a key sign that they haven't fully processed their pain yet and may need more time and support to move on. 7. Impulsive behavior, acting without thinking. Aries are known for their impulsive nature and quick decision-making. When they are emotionally hurt, this impulsiveness can become even more pronounced. They may make hasty decisions or take risks they wouldn't normally consider, all in an attempt to escape the emotional pain they are feeling. For Aries, impulsive behavior is often a way to distract themselves from their emotions. They may act out of frustration or a desire to escape their feelings, making sudden changes in their life or engaging in behaviors that give them a temporary sense of relief. This could involve anything from making impulsive purchases to suddenly quitting a job or changing relationships. Personal insight: I've seen Aries friends make sudden, drastic changes when they are emotionally hurt. One friend decided to move to a new city on a whim, thinking it would help her escape her emotional pain. While the decision seemed spontaneous, it was a clear sign that she was trying to distract herself from her hurt. If you notice an Aries making impulsive decisions, it's important to approach them with care. They may be acting out of emotional turmoil and need support to navigate their feelings in a more thoughtful way. 6. Lack of motivation, feeling drained. Aries are typically driven individuals, full of energy and determination to accomplish their goals. However, when they are emotionally hurt, this drive can completely disappear. They may struggle to find the motivation to engage with their usual activities or to pursue the goals they once found exciting. A lack of motivation in Aries is often a sign that their emotional pain is draining them of their usual enthusiasm and energy. This sign is particularly noticeable because Aries are typically known for their unstoppable drive. So when that drive fades, it's a clear indicator that something is deeply affecting them. Personal insight: I've observed an Aries friend who was once incredibly ambitious suddenly lose all interest in her career and personal goals after going through a difficult breakup. It was almost as if the spark had been extinguished, and she was left feeling empty. This lack of motivation is a clear sign that the emotional pain they're experiencing is affecting every part of their life. If you notice that an Aries is lacking their usual drive and motivation, it's important to offer encouragement and support. They may need time to recover emotionally before they can regain their usual enthusiasm and energy. 5. Insecurity in relationships, doubts and fears. Aries are naturally confident, especially in their relationships. They tend to trust their instincts and feel secure in their connections with others. However, when an Aries is emotionally hurt, they may begin to doubt the loyalty and intentions of those around them. This can manifest as insecurity in relationships, even if there is no clear reason for these doubts. When Aries is hurt, their emotional vulnerability can make them question whether their relationships are genuine. They may become overly sensitive to perceived slights or miscommunications, leading to jealousy or suspicion. This insecurity can create tension in their relationships and may make it difficult for them to rebuild trust until they have healed emotionally. Personal insight: I've witnessed an Aries partner become suspicious and overly sensitive after an argument. Their usual confidence in our relationship was replaced by doubts and fears, even though there was no real reason to question things. This insecurity was a result of the emotional pain they were carrying, and it took time for them to regain their trust. If you notice that an Aries is acting insecure in their relationships, be patient and reassuring. They need to feel emotionally safe before they can rebuild the trust they once had in their connections with others. 4. Refusal to forgive, holding on to grudges. For Aries, forgiveness doesn't come easily. When they feel betrayed or hurt, their strong sense of justice makes it particularly difficult for them to let go of the wrongs done to them. Their pain lingers long after a disagreement or betrayal, and they may hold on to their grudge with pride. Aries may refuse to forgive the person who hurt them, not because they are unwilling to move on, but because they are still processing their pain. They may feel that by holding on to their hurt, they are asserting their power and protecting their integrity. Personal insight: I've seen Aries friends struggle with forgiveness after a betrayal. They may act like everything is fine on the surface, but deep down, they are still holding on to the hurt. This inability to forgive is often a defense mechanism to protect their emotional boundaries. If you notice that an Aries is struggling to forgive, it's important to give them time and space to heal. For Aries, the process of forgiveness is often lengthy and filled with emotional struggle, but with time, they can learn to let go and move forward. 3. Rejection of vulnerability, shielding their soft side. Aries are known for their strength, independence, and self-reliance. They value their sense of control and aren't easily swayed by emotions. When hurt, however, their reaction can be quite the opposite. Aries are uncomfortable with vulnerability and tend to reject it completely, especially when they're in emotional pain. When an Aries is hurting, they'll often put up walls to avoid showing their softer side. This rejection of vulnerability is a defense mechanism. They believe that by remaining emotionally closed off, they are protecting themselves from further hurt. They may refuse to let others see their pain or even admit that they are struggling emotionally. Personal insight: I've witnessed an Aries friend push people away when they needed emotional support the most. They became defensive, refusing to let anyone see that they were hurting. I later realized that their rejection of vulnerability wasn't about wanting to be distant, it was their way of protecting themselves from feeling even more exposed. If you notice an Aries becoming distant or emotionally cold during a difficult time, it's likely that they are struggling with vulnerability. They may push others away not because they don't care, but because they don't know how to deal with their emotions without feeling weak. 2. Emotional isolation, bottling up their feelings. Emotional isolation is another prominent sign that an Aries is struggling with their emotions. Aries, despite their confident and extroverted nature, can become emotionally withdrawn when hurt. They may retreat into themselves and avoid sharing their pain with others, even those closest to them. This emotional isolation is often a result of their belief that by keeping their feelings inside, they can avoid further hurt. Aries feel that sharing their pain with others may give those around them power over their emotions, and they'd rather keep everything bottled up than expose themselves to the risk of vulnerability. Personal insight: I've had an Aries friend who, after going through a tough time, became completely silent. They avoided discussing their feelings with anyone and even started spending more time alone. It was clear they didn't want anyone to know how badly they were hurting. This emotional withdrawal made me realize that even the strongest Aries need a safe space to heal privately. If an Aries isolates themselves emotionally, it's a sign that they are struggling to cope with their pain on their own. While this isolation can feel like a rejection, it's important to understand that they are trying to protect themselves from further emotional distress. Patience is key during this time. 1. Excessive pride, the mask of strength. Perhaps the most telling sign that an Aries is hurt is their excessive pride. Aries take great pride in their strength and independence, and their pride often becomes an essential part of their identity. When they are hurt, they tend to hide behind this pride, refusing to show any signs of weakness or vulnerability. An Aries who is emotionally wounded may put on a facade of strength, acting as if nothing is wrong, even when they are struggling internally. Their pride won't allow them to admit that they are in pain, and they may push others away to avoid showing any vulnerability. They might act as though they are invincible, masking their true emotions to maintain their image of strength. Personal insight: I've noticed that an Aries, when faced with emotional pain, will often act as though everything is fine. They will refuse to acknowledge that they are hurt and will continue with their usual confident persona, even when they are breaking inside. Their pride becomes a shield that prevents others from seeing how vulnerable they truly are. If you see an Aries acting unusually tough or distant, it's important to recognize that their excessive pride is likely masking their pain. They may need time to process their emotions privately before they are ready to open up. If you've enjoyed learning more about Aries and how they react when hurt, be sure to subscribe to the Path to Buddhist Wisdom for more insightful videos on the zodiac, emotional well-being, and spiritual growth. Our channel explores the depths of the zodiac, offering personal insights and wisdom to help you understand yourself and those around you on a deeper level. By subscribing, you'll join a community of like-minded individuals who are on a journey of self-discovery and growth. Don't miss out on our future videos that will help you navigate your own emotions, connect with others, and live a more mindful life. So, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below sharing your zodiac sign and how you feel the moon influences your life. Join us on this path of wisdom and personal growth. Remember, you're never alone on this journey. Together, we can uncover the wisdom of the stars and navigate life's challenges with greater awareness. Final thought: thank you for being part of the Path to Buddhist Wisdom. We are grateful to have you in our community. Take care, stay connected, and keep exploring the mysteries of the zodiac and beyond. Glowing star emoji.